In 2007, people got a big surprise in the video game Assassin's Creed. It brought history to video games in a really new and interesting way. Now, go 2 years later in 2009, Assassin's Creed 2 comes out, and it really started to kick off the series that we still have today in 2020. I know I didn't expect it to still be going when I first started playing games in 2009, but I'm really glad it did because we've seen some really great games. Today I'm going to talk about Assassin's Creed 2, give my thoughts on it. I replayed it recently as part of the Ezio collection on the PS4. Gonna give a warning, there's going to be some spoilers here, but it's an 11-year-old game, so you probably know more or less about it, but there's a little bit of a spoiler warning there. So either way, I'm going to take a look at the game and go through Assassin's Creed 2 and add it to my game list. Assassin's Creed 2 starts right where the first one leaves off, with Desmond, the modern-day character of this game, finding weird symbols in his room. Lucy comes in and helps you find your ancestor Ezio Auditore de Firenze. As Ezio, you live through the Renaissance, meeting people such as Leonardo da Vinci, the Medici, and many other important historical figures. The main conflict, of course, is the conflict between the Assassins, a group that Ezio finds himself a part of, and the Templars. The reason Ezio joins this conflict is because the Templars are the reason his father and two brothers were hung. This leads Ezio down a long revenge plan where he works with the Assassins without really even thinking about it. Compared to the first game, there are a lot more recognizable names in this game. Being in the Renaissance, like this game is, it brings people to a greater understanding because this is a time period that almost everyone has heard of. Great art, great people, and great corruption. This comes to a head as it turns out the main person Ezio is chasing is Rodrigo Borgia, who ends up becoming the Pope. You ever think you'd fist fight the Pope? Well, now you can in this game. It's a wild story from a boy sneaking to flirt with girls to a man sneaking into the Vatican to attack the Pope. It's a really interesting story that, even playing through again in 2020, it's interesting and keeps my interest. I greatly enjoyed the historical figures and how Ezio got to interact with them, and I enjoyed the story as a whole, so I'm giving it 93 points. Now, in the modern day, the point of this game is for Desmond to learn Ezio's moves, so it makes sense that the gameplay evolves throughout the game as Ezio grows and learns more. We begin with really simple fist or sword fighting, but it's not too long before we get the signature hidden blade. From there, we are moving with Ezio and really getting into the assassin mind frame. We follow along with Ezio as he performs missions such as tailing people, fighting people, assassinating people. You know, the standards. Combat in this game, I will admit, gets stale pretty quickly. Every time you're in a battle with a handful of foes, it's a simple block, parry, kill, which you repeat multiple times. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but the real fun combat is when it is sneaky. Now, you can't crouch or really hide behind things, but you can hide in crowds and move with the crowd towards your target before getting them with the hidden blade. Or maybe you find some courtesans and pay them to distract a guard for you so you can find the real target. These last two I always enjoyed because it just felt sneaky and like I was a real assassin. Besides cause of death, the other main gameplay mechanic in Assassin's Creed 2 is the movement. This is Italy, with some pretty dense cities that you can climb up and run across the roofs of. Jumping from building to building can be pretty fun. I especially love the vantage points where you climb a really tall building and get to see a wide view of the city. There are some difficulties with the parkour system of the game, such as not jumping where you're trying to jump to because the game thinks it knows better, but otherwise it's enjoyable. Overall, between combat and parkour, the gameplay isn't bad, but it certainly isn't as impressive as it was back when the game came out, so I'll be giving it 53 points. Now, I've never been to Italy, so I can't really talk about how accurate this game is to what Italy really looks like. I'll leave that comparison for other people, but what I can talk about is how the Assassin's Creed 2 version of Italy is designed. As I mentioned before, the cities here are pretty condensed so that you can have the parkour experience jumping from rooftop to rooftop. But some of the areas, especially in Venice, have those winding waterways throughout. This adds a nice change of pace to the game visually, which I enjoy, and brings me closer to believe that I'm in Italy, based off of movies I've seen. Monteriggioni was really a great area to me, not only because it seemed like a cool little Italian village, but because, due to purchases I made throughout the game, I was able to expand the city and make it more prosperous, which again, made me feel closer to the game and is something I really enjoyed. Other areas you can visit are Florence, Tuscany, and Forli, and each had their own quirks to them that I enjoyed. Each city had at least one, if not multiple, landmarks to be able to navigate around, and having a limited fast travel system doesn't hurt either. Overall, I really enjoyed how the world was designed and laid out, so I'll be giving it 65 points. I couldn't talk about this game without talking about two of the main collectibles in it, feathers and glyphs. I'll start with glyphs actually, and these are interesting. The concept is there was someone before you, Subject 16, who had access to this genetic code and left clues for you. You then have to solve 20 glyphs puzzle series, which can range from picking pictures surrounding a common theme to solving kind of complex puzzle wheels. It's a real change of pace from the rest of the game, but it's a welcome one in my opinion. The reward for completing these challenges is a short little video showing more of the history of Assassin's Creed, and it's kind of worth it, but honestly, I was just in it for the puzzles. Now the feathers are a whole other story. There are 100 of them spread all across the different cities, and they range from hidden somewhere you never see to sitting on a random building that you run past. These are fine for the most part, but pretty tedious, and the only reason to do it in my opinion is either for the trophy or the achievement, or for the story's reason of giving your mother something that reminds her of her dead son. The reward for getting all the feathers is a cape. That makes you automatically notorious in every location, so all guards will attack you on sight. Not the most worth it in my opinion. So between the glyphs that I enjoyed and the feathers that I didn't, I'm going to give Collectibles 38 points. Now I love the Assassin's Creed series, but objectively I can still see that the games are not as good as I remember them. There's definitely some nostalgia goggles going on when I play the games, but try to still objectively look at it to recognize what mechanics worked back then compared to now and how we're able to compare those basically. However, the story got 93 points in this game, gameplay was 53 points, world design I put at 65 points, and collectibles I put at 38 points. So that brings Assassin's Creed 2 to 249 points. That's position number 14 on my game list, and that is just above Judgment, just below Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. I think it's a pretty good spot for this game. It's a really good game. It's not number one like I thought it was when I was, a kid in 2009, but really good game, really enjoyed it. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this video. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button. You can see some of my other content as well. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter. I do some posts on there every once in a while about different stuff going on. I'll put the link to that in the description down below. But either way, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one.